Hello, this is my web quest for quadratic equations. To start off, a web quest is essentially something a teacher can create beforehand to have students use a computer, iPad, something with internet access, and the students can basically do instruction one-on-one without doing everything as a class. And this specific web quest is designed for quadratic equations, and it's to cover standard algebra. Quadratic equations point 5 represent real-world problems using quadratic equations in one or two variables and solve such problems with and without technology. Interpret the solution and determine whether it is reasonable. So to start off with, there are the tasks. And before any of this happens, step 1 can be a prerequisite, or it can be flowing from one section of teaching to the next. But the prerequisite for students to learn how to do this would be students should already have a pre-existing knowledge of how to factor equations. However, if not, they need to take a day to relearn the material. So the task portion of this web quest is basically a breakdown of everything that's going to be happening. So if you see in each part, I've divided it into 4 steps, and in this specific example, each step is 1 day. So looking at it ahead of time, what's going to be happening is day 1 is going to be a review day on factoring problems, and they're going to have problems assigned online that they're going to do and turn in on loose leaf paper. Like I said, they can either you can use this day as a review day, or the teacher might have done how to factor equations beforehand, so you could almost just flow into step 2 over here. So step 2 and 3 go hand in hand. It's learning about quadratic equations. So there's complete the square. You will watch a tutorial video. The student could ask any questions that they need to, then they'll complete problems on a piece of paper that they'll turn in the next day. And this is the same for the quadratic formula. Then on the last day, the student will make a real-life example to show that they understand what the quadratic equation is and how it applies to real life. So going to the process page, it follows exactly what I just said. The students will review on day 1. Then step 2 and 3 involve watching the video and then completing practice problems. Then day 4, this is where the student will get a day to, in class, they won't need computer that day or anything. They can create their real-life example of the quadratic equation to show their understanding of it. Then there will be an evaluation page depending on what the teacher wants to grade the students on. In this particular case, there was a rubric for how to grade students on the work problems that they did. So each day they turned in loose leaf problems. There's a grade for that, and then there's an individual grade for the real life example and how well the student shows their understanding. And then at the end of the web quest is a conclusion. A web quest is something a student can do by themselves. So the teacher doesn't have to teach everyone, as a class. Students can go at their own pace, ask questions, anything like that. So the conclusion of this, after everything is said and done, the student should be able to go back to the beginning, and it should complete this standard. They should represent real-world problems using quadratic equations in one or two variables and solve such problems with and without technology. So between the practice problems and the real-life example that they will be doing on paper, the student should be able to express their understanding of this standard. So a teacher can use a web quest for every example or every section, and students can work at their own individual pace for every section.